Hi, I'm Hannah.
And I'm Matt Hannah.
And this is Horror Hour with the Hannahs.
Where we're on our way to Camp Miasma with an empty tank of gas.
And lots of snacks, because today we're talking about teenage sex. God damn it. Sex and death at Camp Miasma.
There you go.
Holy hell. I can't talk today.
Hannah's developed a lisp today.
This is the second time we're doing an intro because I can't talk.
We're just leaving it at this point.
Teenage sex and death at Camp Miasma.
Yep.
Miasma. Mm-hmm. The characters pronounce it different ways. So no matter how you've been saying it, you're correct. This film is written and directed by Jane Schoenbrun, and it's starring Hannah Einbinder and Gillian Anderson, as well as featuring Jack Haven playing Little Death, who you'd recognize as Maddie from I Saw the TV Glow, Jane's second film. The film premiered at the 2026 Cannes Film Festival, so earlier this year in May, and it was the opening film for the In Certain Regard section, pardon me not saying it in French, where it won the Queer Palm. And it is the festival's second most important section. It's not the main competition section. There are multiple sections.
I kind of wish this wasn't the main competition. I think it could have gone far. But either way, still pretty cool.
I think Fjord won.
Okay, got it.
Which I'm excited to see, and is an entirely different movie.
Well, give us a little back-of-the-box description on this.
Yes. It is about a director making a slasher sequel who becomes obsessed with casting the original film's final girl, leading both women into psychological and sexual chaos.
Okay. That's basically how I have been describing it to people to get them to watch it.
So the film is very interesting. It's definitely based off Jane Schoenbrun's personal experiences, having, this is their third film they're making, so having been a filmmaker for a little bit and having come out as trans over the making of their prior films, which are all kind of thematically linked with this element of transness. So Jane says that the satirical elements here were inspired by her being pitched the Leprechaun reboot shortly after we're all going to the World's Fair premiered at Sundance.
Yeah, and we'll get into that a little bit more later, I think, when we get into spoilers, but that made me laugh a lot, that Jane had been asked to look at that.
And Jane, in the interview that the one you sent to me, Jane is kind of saying, like, part of the reason they think that
they were asked
was because they are trans and they're trying to, like, make up for the fact that the
series is, like,
problematic and transphobic. Yeah. They're like, maybe if we add a trans person into the
I actually don't know enough about the Leprechaun to know if it's transphobic, but I know that it's not very PC, is what I'll say.
I don't know shit about it, and I don't care. Especially if Jane's not directing one, I could care less. And speaking of the making of the film, Jane wrote Gillian Anderson's character with her in mind. They were thinking about childhood sex symbols when they were writing the character, and Gillian Anderson's role in The X-Files was a prominent reference, which Jane has allegedly been obsessed with since the third grade.
Makes total sense.
It does. Imagine how crazy that would be, being like, I've had a crush on you since third grade, and now I'm directing you in a movie where, like, I wrote this part for you.
And I wrote my stand-in character to also have a crush on you.
Yeah, It's bananas. It's awesome. Oh, speaking of which, you know the drill here if you've been before, but if you haven't been, we are spoiler-free until we say we're not.
Yep, we'll let you know. You'll hear a siren.
I just thought about that. Okay, so another background piece about making the film. There's a lot of background about this film, which is interesting because a lot of times new releases don't have much background. But Jane's been doing a hella press tour.
Yeah, Jane's been doing a ton. This is their third film, and I Saw the TV Glow was extremely successful, at least among the audience that went out and saw it. I think a lot of people see Jane as a huge up-and-coming filmmaker, myself included, someone that I will be seated for all of their films. So it makes sense that we're getting a lot more.
That I Saw the TV Glow was not that successful. Financially, it didn't make
successfully
shit.
In terms of critical acclaim is what I'm saying.
Critically, it has the worst Rotten Tomato score of all
fine.
3.
Among the people I know, everyone loves it, so
that's the thing. I do think word of mouth has ended up doing a lot for
everyone that
I've
recommended I Saw the TV Glow loves it.
And
so.
for a smaller film, it hit the 1 million club on Letterboxd faster than anticipated. Anyway, this film was really difficult to finance. A lot of studios passed on it, including A24, who produced I Saw the TV Glow.
Wait, dude, people are such cowards. Tell me more, but I'll tell you why they passed on it.
Jane said it's getting harder for queer people to make honest stories about our lives, and especially if those stories aren't like trauma porn. If they're coming from a liberated perspective, which is not the perspective that Hollywood usually makes movies from, there are a lot of obstacles in your road to getting 10 million to do some crazy shit.
Okay, completely agree with that. They said it way better than I could have. I totally agree, which is a shame because I love the way that I love the story that this movie tells. And I think having this be a happy story about liberation over trauma is amazing and something new that we haven't really seen in this kind of genre. And so hopefully more get made. Just give Jane a blank check, to be honest, at this point. So,
well, they were originally talking about scaling back the scope to make it a more feasible budget before Mubi stepped in.
Wow. Well, good for Mubi. Also, shame on you, A24. The people that have greenlit the weirdest shit, you can't like help your guy, or I was about to say girl out, but Jane goes they them. You can't help them out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some other background. This is the first film of Jane's that was not shot in the United States. The film was shot in Vancouver, in Canada. They wrote the film thinking about their own childhood sleepaway camp in Massachusetts, but they couldn't really film there. So Jane said they were skeptical of the location shift because their connection to like the Northeast United States has been a part of their working process so far, and they'd had no experience in the Northwest, later saying everything they knew about the Northwest came from Twin Peaks and the X-Files.
Well, and we know that there's a lot of Lynch and Twin Peaks inspiration on Jane, especially in I Saw the TV Glow. So
well, another Twin Peaks reference here. The costume for the film's killer, Little Death, was designed around the concept that the character... I can't say that
mythically?
Without spoiling.
No. Oh, my bad.
So they ended up creating a camper's uniform covered in plastic, but Jane later suggested the plastic should evoke the wrapping around Laura Palmer's body from
I see
Twin
that
Peaks.
now. That's awesome. I never realized that before.
Part of the fun fact that I just paused and like rebooted over was because it had like a blatant spoiler written, and I was like, okay. I did not edit this beforehand. I just copy and pasted this from IMDb trivia. Panic. But yeah, lots of Twin Peaks mentioned in here. One of the interviews I was watching of Jane also talked about how David Lynch was so just like, I'm not going to tell you what any of my movies are about, and I'm just doing my silly little David Lynch thing in all these interviews. And Jane was like, the more and more movies I make, the more I get it.
Yeah, and I kind of said, and I mean, I'll just, since we're in spoiler-free territory, I had seen a lot of, like, I would say Lynch inspiration in I Saw the TV Glow.
Well, yeah.
In a good way. But in that movie, which I love, a lot of it felt like, okay, this is not exactly jacking Lynch's style, but clearly trying to be like Lynch, where in this film, I think this is much more Lynch without trying to be like Lynch, if that makes sense, if my roundabout way of saying it, where I feel that Jane has found their entire own voice, which in my mind makes them the most real successor to Lynch that I've seen without just jacking Lynch's style.
I don't feel like I Saw the TV Glow jacks
I didn't
Lynch.
say that. I said that it's looks more inspired, where this is much more of their own.
I don't
work,
know.
I think
I feel it very dramatically in both, but I also think it's just like inherently when you have a unique voice like the two of them, it's just there's gonna be natural comparisons.
Either
there.
way,
people have also compared like everyone and their mother to David Cronenberg, whether that's a fair comparison or not.
Either way, my point is, though, sometimes when people compare, it's more of like they're trying to just replicate their style. Jane is not.
No.
Jane is Lynch in their own way, or is the natural successor in my mind, which is amazing, especially as two Lynch lovers. I would say it's so exciting to see a filmmaker doing something similar, but also making it their own in so many ways.
I agree.
I'm really excited about that. Like, just, gets me hyped.
One last background fact that I can say before the spoiler zone, and that is that this movie does not have any product placement, despite there being a lot of products in the film.
I was like, go Jane, get that bag with all of the KFC and all this stuff. That's even funnier, though, to not get paid at all, to just put all this stuff in here.
So originally in the script, it was Popeyes, and there was a lot of Popeyes compliments. And lawyers reviewed the script and said, you have to take this out. You can't keep complimenting Popeyes. And then Hannah Einbinder in an interview was like, no, none of the candy and the snacks were like product placement. We just like snack. And I was like, yes, that's incredible. Me too.
Just free ads, whatever.
The Hannahs love a snack. Yeah. What can I say? And they're talking about like how we're in the gummy renaissance in the film. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel so seen right now. I love a fucking gummy. Jane gets me. Hannah Einbinder, they just get it. You love a snack.
Yeah.
So that is where I will leave that. Lots of background, like I said, and I actually have some more things to say once we're spoiling.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll start talking spoiler free. So we loved I Saw the TV Glow a lot.
I also really liked We're All Going to the World's Fair, which you have not seen all of yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, we love that movie. We saw it in theaters. Had a great time, felt a lot of emotions. I've seen it multiple times, recommended it to a lot of people.
Recommended to a lot of people. We own
who have all liked it.
Vinyl.
Yeah, we do own the vinyl.
I love the album so much. I listen to the music from that film all the time. Jane, you fucking nailed that soundtrack too. Like the song picks, so good. So I think we both went into this
with high expectations.
Definitely. Do you feel like your expectations were met?
Yes, very much so, if not exceeded.
Yeah, I feel the same way. The movie is very, very different. Tonally, I think it's entirely different, but it also makes sense because this is kind of tackling a different element of transness and like the transition process, which is kind of what the three movies are thematically centered around.
Yeah, I think they're about the queer experience, which is also, I think, a relatable experience outside of, like, for people who aren't queer as well, which is a lot of feeling of anxiety, feeling that you're not the person you want to be, things like that, which I've always really appreciated, especially from I Saw the TV Glow, is that anyone can have empathy for this experience and anyone can feel similarities to this experience. And I would say that there's a lot of that in this movie as well.
Yeah.
And I think that people who go in and are like, I don't relate to this, either you don't have empathy or like, I think you're not realizing that you do relate, because I think everyone can relate to this experience. It just happens to be, I think, much more life or death for a lot of queer folks.
I will say a lot of people, I don't know what exactly it is, because I don't want to like generalize and say something insulting, but I do feel like a lot of people just don't have the same like media literacy where they can see a movie and like relate to it or understand it if it's not their own personal experience. Like I've had so many friends be like, I hated that movie because why would they act like that? And it's like, you can't put yourself in the shoes of any character or any other person outside of yourself.
I want to say something rude, but I'll hold back.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, I will. I mean, typically that's like a sign of low intelligence.
That's what I was avoiding saying.
That's like not even like, that's like a factual sign of low intelligence, is to not be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes or put yourself in a hypothetical. But whatever, we can move on from that. Not that intelligence means everything, you know?
Yeah.
Either way, that was my point, is I've really enjoyed all of their films. I made a joke to Hannah that I said, I said, being a straight man that loves queer cinema hits like crack. And I was like, I don't really know what that means, but I would just say that I feel like everything here I can empathize with and feel and relate to, even as a straight man. I think it's maybe someone who is just in touch with themselves and understands these like anxieties and the feelings of like not being the person you want to be. And I think that that's really amazing, and I'm happy to be able to relate and take something from these movies. So especially Ass of the TV Glow.
What a stunning, depressing, but also hopeful.
Hey, there is still time.
There is still time.
That's for anybody out there.
Yeah, I'll think about that forever.
I know, me too.
The fact that it's like so literalized on the screen as well. Like it's not even just like a character says it or it's implying it. It's physically written there to remind you.
And we'll get into this one a little bit. And Hannah and I talked, and we can get a little deeper with it. But there's a ton of themes in this movie, and they all clash and combine and build like Jenga blocks on top of each other in such an immaculate way.
Our themes conversation is going to be messy.
Insane. But a big theme that I really took away from this, I mean, there's a ton, but it was this idea of us using movies and the things in the media we love. I hate saying media, the art that we love, to cope with other things happening, either distract ourselves or help us through those moments. And I think that we have a very clear example of that I brought up. And I think it's really fun to put that on screen and say, hey, like this is something that I have too. And this is something that I've used to cope and feel better. And this is also something I've used to distract and work in a way that maybe isn't the healthiest. But either way, we can jump back into general thoughts and talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that a bit more because I have notes on that. But just getting started outside of the thematic purposes of this film, what do we like about it?
I thought it was very, very funny. That's one thing. Should I just start there?
Shit. This movie... laugh out loud funny.
I laughed out loud. I also found myself laughing when other people weren't laughing. And I was do these jokes just hit better for me? This does a really great deconstruction of the slasher genre in a very like loving and fun way that made me like bust a gut multiple times as someone who is overly familiar with the slasher genre and also has my own gripes with it. Yeah,
it's just like a love letter to film as well. Like there are just so many, like you can tell it's written by a film nerd, starring a film nerd,
and making fun of other film nerds,
of being a film nerd. So like for all my film nerds out there that know what a split diopter shot is, there is a scene in the movie where they're watching a movie and the character goes split diopter. And I was like, oh God, that's me.
That's awesome when we see a split diopter.
So later in the movie when a split diopter is used, outside of them watching the movie, I leaned over and whispered, like split diopter.
Yep.
Which I do anyway. So I was like, oh my God, they're calling me out. So that was hilarious. There was also references to like the character's first film being Psycho from the perspective of the shower curtain, like all this shit that's so funny, that's like kind of intellectualizing things in a way that's really funny. And then the way that they're riffing on slasher, specifically Friday the 13th, is just absolutely brilliant.
I have much more knowledge of that whole franchise than you do because you've stayed away. So for me, I was like laughing a lot, especially just like the names laughing being a lot,
and I didn't have the same context.
Knowledge, like Camp Miasma, A New Beginning, and the way that they talk about it. And then there is a movie within a movie, which is the first Camp Miasma in this, which is like supposed to be the first Friday the 13th. And it is so funny because Jane goes over the top in making this movie like transphobic and like just so
funny
on PC. And I was laughing so hard.
Like the characters are like talking about how Little Death is some days shows up to camp as a boy and some days shows up to camp dressed like a girl because their parent taught them to change their gender every day.
Yeah, they raised them to change their gender every day. And then
which was like so funny on its own. And then they go into the fact that like they're swimming one day and they drowned him. I mean, what other option did they have?
Yeah, it was like he lashed out and so we drowned him, or they drowned him. What other option did they have?
And we were
I was cackling, which is just like such a funny call out to these other franchises.
Yeah,
and then in general, like going against the typical. I mean, we'll get into the Friday the 13th discussion. We've talked about before how we think it basically took all the wrong messages from other slashers, and then basically became the slasher, which has like very horrible messaging in compared to the other ones. And then this movie is kind of making fun of that, at least about like outsiders and what being pure is and how purity is the only thing that can lead to your salvation, basically. So for Jane, a queer filmmaker who clearly loves this, to riff and make fun of that while also being like, I love these movies and we're so inspired by them is really fun and conflicting and awesome.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I think that's just kind of honestly part of being a horror fan is like we can appreciate and respect where the genre came from, but also have this acknowledgement of like, that's not good. That's problematic. And I think if you're a horror fan, like that's something you've probably had to come to terms with, or you should have had to come to terms with. Yeah, it's so funny. I also think, and part of why it's funny is it's extremely well acted. I think you just like know Gillian Anderson is like an icon, so like you know that she's gonna be good, and she is extremely funny. The accent she's doing is great, and like the way the character's written is great. But I hadn't seen Hacks, so I've never seen Hannah Einbinder do anything, and I thought she was fabulous. I thought she was so good.
She was really, really good, and the chemistry between the two was palpable.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was
it like made me
that,
nervous watching it. I was like, oh my gosh.
I loved their chemistry, and that really, I think, I don't want to say carries the movie because there's so much good about it, but it's such a central piece. I mean, the movie knocks it out of the park.
Work if they don't have
definitely
that chemistry. Yeah.
Other things, it's shot great. It's shot in a way that is supposed to invoke other films, and the fact that it is a movie. It's kind of breaking the fourth wall in that way throughout.
The matte paintings
I was going to bring that up.
Absolutely stunning. I mean, they're beautiful looking, just in general, like beautiful paintings. But I think it's really interesting how obvious they make it that it's a matte painting. Like you can quite literally see the brush strokes in a way that I feel like
I was telling someone at work about this today.
And it's actually quite fitting given the context of the film and what it's doing, and that it does have this meta element of like a film within a film.
And it's supposed to make you feel like you never really know what reality is, because what reality is kind of shifting and changing for the characters as well while you're watching. Mm-hmm. Not a spoiler, because I don't know what was reality and what wasn't while watching this movie, and I don't think you need to know. So, you know what it reminded me of? You'll love this. It reminded me of Shutter Island in that way, where there is a lot of... Why are you laughing?
I just did not anticipate a Shutter Island reference.
Yeah, that's something Scorsese has done in that movie, where there are shots that purposefully look fake. Yeah. Because it's supposed to invoke the feeling of that movie is not reality. And like it's a fake setting. The cigarette smoke coming
back into the cigarette instead of out.
Things like that.
It's like
there's some
people
blue
that talk
screen
about
stuff
how there's a lot of
blue or green.
continuity errors, but it's like, no, that's on purpose.
It's on purpose, yep.
Yeah.
And there's something similar going on here that I was thinking about while watching it. Mm-hmm. So overall, I think it's a beautifully shot movie. The script is amazing. And for me, something I love is a movie that takes massive swings. This is a massive swing in so many ways. And the magic of this one is it connects. It not only takes it connects and knocks it out of the park, at least for me. And so that was just a breath of fresh air. I love massive swings. There's a reason why other studios didn't want to pick it up, and it's because Jane made a very out there movie about sex. Let's be real. Yeah. This movie is about sex. At its core, that is what... There's plenty of things it's about. That is what it is textually and subtextually about, which is awesome. I can't believe that Jane got someone to give them a bunch of money to make a movie about sex.
It's hard as a trans filmmaker to be getting that money anyway.
It's hard for anyone to get a movie that's explicitly about sex.
But then add in a trans person making a movie about queer sex.
Yes, yeah.
Is like
it's amazing.
Crazy.
I'm so happy we have
it.
But
again, like you were saying, like you don't have to be a queer person to relate to
any of it.
This concept of like sex pre and post transition. I think everyone
or just anxiety around
can
sex
relate
in general.
To at least in some way, shape, or form anxiety around sex or anxiety around intimacy, even if it's not sex. And so, like as a person with an anxiety disorder, there were definitely moments where I was like, stop calling me out like that, Jane, just simmer down. Mm-hmm. So like there are moments of the film where I was like, I'm not having fun because I'm seeing myself and I don't like it.
Yet in all of this though, there is an underlying through theme of like intimacy with the right person and like finding people that are there for you and will support you in this. And I found it wonderful and really heartfelt and moving. And that's why I loved this movie.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I tell people to see this, they're going to think I'm a huge sicko once they actually watch it. And that's okay. I like it for many reasons. All right. Not just beautiful women.
There's more to like besides the beautiful women.
You can love the beautiful women, which I do.
There are beautiful women, yes. We love beautiful women kissing and being into
Spoilers!
But, I mean, it's in the plot description,
I know.
dog. But, yeah, I think there's obviously so much more to it than that. And I think we'll be talking quite a bit about that for basically once we're done spoiling the movie. It's going to basically be like almost entirely about what the movie is saying and meaning to us. Last thing that I will say, you mentioned, how great this movie looks. We talked about the matte paintings, but I think another element is the way it's shot. In general, Jane just understands how to frame a scene, edit a scene, make put a scene
I don't
to
even know how to
construct
better
a scene.
Describe it.
There's certain scenes that I will talk about when we spoil the film, that it's very distinctly written out in the script where the camera's facing, what it's looking at, what it's doing. It was very integral to the writing of the project that be there. And that's, yeah. And in context, you'll get it.
I have one more thing before spoilers as well.
Yeah.
It tags along with that. Not a spoiler, but there is a movie within the movie. You get to watch part of the original Camp Miasma in this. Mm-hmm. And I love how Jane basically made a better Friday the 13th within their movie.
Oh, I found their Friday the 13th infinitely more
much better. It was so funny. And I love that it was shot like an older film. And then out of nowhere, it would basically change to be more modern, which really would throw you off. Mm-hmm. And also has thematic relevance as well.
Yeah.
But I really thought that was amazing and enjoyed that. I'm also a huge sucker for a movie about making movies. So even though that's not the full plot of this, being part of it really, gets me going.
Yeah.
So you want to spoil this thing?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's get into the spoiler zone now.
Now we're entering the spoiler zone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the spoiler zone. After this point, you're going to hear some things that you might not want to hear.
Okay, so before we talk anymore, let me give this full plot description. And I just want to say it is insane.
We're going to skip 15-second summaries because I don't feel psychologically capable.
I also feel weird about it. But when I read this, I feel like it does not do this movie justice and also makes it seem way more insane. But it'll be funny. So listen up.
I tried to read it just to put things together in my head. Now I was like,
wrong. Okay, well, here we go. Camp Miasma is a long-running slasher franchise. Its recurring villain is Little Death, the ghost of a child who's purportedly raised as both a boy and a girl by their parents. After being drowned by hateful campers, Little Death periodically rises from the lake that borders Camp Miasma and slaughters everyone they find. Though the series' original installments were successful, a spat of low-quality, unprofitable sequels has left it in limbo. Queer filmmaker Chris is hired to direct a reboot. She is particularly interested in casting Billy Presley, an actress who abruptly retired after playing the original film's final girl. She travels to the Pacific Northwest to meet with Billy, who she discovers lives in the abandoned campgrounds used to film the series. Billy is warm, perceptive, and obsessed with Little Death. Chris quickly opens up to her, discussing her dissatisfaction in her polyamorous relationship. Billy dismisses Chris's overly academic interpretation of the series, but expresses interest in acting again. Chris becomes convinced that the reboot should star Billy in her original role. Chris and Billy watch the original Camp Miasma together. Chris is especially fond of a shot in a sex scene featuring Billy, but the campground's power goes out just as the shot appears on screen. Chris and Billy return to Billy's house, where Chris initiates sex with Billy before abruptly stopping, lamenting that sex has always been difficult for her. Chris admits that she can only enjoy sex if she fantasizes herself as a sexualized final girl, and Billy encourages her to further explore that as its only play. The next morning, Chris offers a pitch to the studio executives in which Little Death imagines the world through Camp Miasma films rather than the filmmakers creating them, and everyone, including Chris, are characters in one of his films. Chris and Billy appear to travel into the world of Camp Miasma, where Billy encourages Chris to assume the role of the final girl. She is chased by Little Death and watches him kill her partner, Mari, and Mari's boyfriend, Thor, as well as Chris's agent and superiors. Finally, Chris is chased to a cabin where Billy awaits. As the two have sex, Little Death approaches them. Chris initially pleads for her life before accepting her fate, appearing to have an orgasm as Little Death spears her and Billy simultaneously. In Little Death's lair under the lake, a VHS copy of the new film called Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma appears. The following morning, Chris and Billy revive. Still covered in blood, they leave the campgrounds, travel past the carnage left by Little Death, and return to the gas station where the original Camp Miasma began. After buying snacks, Chris claims she can still feel Little Death's presence at the bottom of the lake, where he is waiting to come for them once more, repeating the same words the final girl from an earlier Camp Miasma film said. She and Billy smile at each other, and they walk off hand in hand. That's the end of the movie. Again, that really doesn't do it justice, but I do enjoy that.
The shit is bananas.
This movie is so good, guys. It's actually so good. I promise. Please go see it. It'll make you feel things. Their romance is so cute and amazing, and I just think like tackling the subject matter is awesome.
Yeah.
So
I have some more background.
Okay, let's get into it
quick.
Before I gush. I've actually held off gushing for the most part.
I know. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
So Little Death, which you actually knew, I did not.
I knew this. Yeah, can I say it? Or do you want to? I told Hannah this. I was like, by the way, do you know like Little Death is a euphemism for an orgasm, right? And she went, what? And then you had to look it up in French. Yeah. I knew that. I learned that from a movie. I don't know what movie it was from.
I learned it from this movie.
Yep. Okay. Which is even funnier to make the slasher villain an orgasm.
Really fucking funny.
Yeah. Go ahead. Explain it, though. It's a French word. How do you say it in French?
La petite morte.
Yep.
Maybe.
Is it les petites? I don't know.
La petite morte is how it's spelled.
Oh, okay. Got it. It's LA. Yep.
LA.
Anyway, it means the little death.
Yes.
Yeah.
Other fun fact. This is about the sequence that I was talking about earlier, the Long December sequence.
I also nearly jumped out of my seat when Counting Crows A Long December started playing. I thought that was so funny, and I loved this scene. So.
Jane's personal connection to the Counting Crows dates back to childhood. Their cousin was the band's guitar tech.
Whoa.
So Jane met the band backstage at age 10.
Okay, so Jane actually likes Counting Crows. I think they're fine, and I think this song is, like, lame in a really funny way. So, maybe that's me.
I did not know the song, so I did not care. And Matt kept being like, Long December, Long December. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Can I explain? I have a friend who did a bit, as he explained it, it's thrice as dumb as a D's nuts joke, where you send somebody down a broad road into eventually saying something about long or December, in which you cut them off going, Long December! And you just sing the song over them. It's like D's nuts, but Long December. So that's why I nearly jumped out of my seat.
Yeah, I didn't get it. Yeah. I really didn't understand.
Yeah, well, it made me laugh a lot.
But yeah, scene. So that's the sequence where we are seeing Little Death killing everyone at the camp in the original film. This sequence was pre-planned like a music video with the camera movements written directly into the script. So the team visited the location with an iPhone and an iPhone Steadicam to map out exactly what beats of the song would correspond to which physical positions in the space.
And it works so well. I love to hear that.
Yes.
This is also an amazing moment within the original Camp Miasma movie where all of a sudden the entire way that the movie is filmed changes.
And is very modern all of a sudden.
Yes.
And the camera is from the point of view of the killer, but then suddenly switches and is of the killer's face, which is, it's bananas.
Seeing them elated as they kill everybody. Yeah. They also kill like 10 people in the time that the song takes, which I really enjoyed as well. It's like obscene.
It's a really funny scene.
It's cartoonish
the
in
murders
a slasher way.
Very cartoonish. Yes. It's awesome.
I had people ask me if this was gory. I was like, no, but when it is, it's like a cartoonish way. It's like very silly.
Yeah.
So okay. I agree. So what other spoiler things do we want to talk about that we really liked? Other than this movie is very heartfelt and funny, it kind of hits everything. You know what it hits? It hits my Triple H of Twin Peaks. Heartfelt, humorous, horror.
Yeah. It does.
Triple H.
I mean, there's a reason we'd be talking about David Lynch. Jane talks about David Lynch. It all fits together.
I think also as big horror fans, and I said people who are very well aware of the genre, to see a deconstruction, as I was saying before, of the slasher genre, especially the more like weird versions of it, like the Friday the 13th series, which basically tells you that, you know, sex is bad and if you have sex you will die, and that the pure virgin is the final girl that lives, to kind of flip that on its head and make fun of it, while also Jane acknowledges that like this kind of I think in some ways, at least they said, help them find their own sexuality by watching these films. And our own character says that.
Well, and there's this, element too, where especially earlier horror films like Psycho or even like The Silence of the Lambs, depending on your read, like they can very much be interpreted as like transness as monstrous. So for a trans filmmaker to love horror and be criticizing that while also being like, yeah, but these movies are really fun and they're like a big part of my childhood and my upbringing and my identity as a filmmaker too, is really interesting, the way that those ideas conflict but also come together.
Yeah. I found someone on Instagram posted something. I'm going to steal part of what they had said. So Eval Film 704, thank you. But they pointed out that never once the movie kind of does like a look how stupid these movies are. It's not like Scary Movie where it's like calling it out. There's still a lot of love. But it was more acknowledging that the films can shape you with when you're young with their ideology and ideas about sex, violence, gender, and identity. And it can become part of how you understand yourself for better or worse. And so it's like both a love letter and a deconstruction.
Yeah.
Which I think is really fascinating, and it works so well. And I'm already said before, to have so many themes about film, about sex, about identity, about horror, about these specific horror films and your relationship to them, and they're all able to like stack and work together is a miracle.
Yeah. So. My direct note I wrote about that for myself was movies can serve us so many purposes. They can help us escape from reality, but just as much help us to understand our own reality, feel seen, etc. And I just like love the idea of catharsis through film, and catharsis through horror is particularly interesting because there are concepts in horror that maybe they belong in a horror film because maybe they are taboo. Maybe there are things that like we as a society don't want to admit that we think or feel. Like, for example, it's like certain feelings surrounding grief have been big in horror movies because like sometimes we don't want to admit that we feel that way, or like we can't articulate the strength of the feelings that we feel, or something like this where it has to do with sex and sexual desire and like maybe things that are a little bit taboo. It like feels fitting as a genre for those things to be present there. So it's cool.
I want to talk about the sex of it all, but I feel like that's going to be the last big theme. So I'm going to hit some other ones before we get there. Something I said when we came out that I was like pretty giddy after watching this. And I was like, I don't even know how to speak about this movie. And I kind of alluded to this earlier. And I said, there's a really interesting idea about how we can use film and art to like kind of cope with problems, but also try to ignore them. And I said to Hannah, I was like, you realize that like we have a very big example. I was explaining to Hannah why this movie's amazing when we came out. I know you like it. I'm being a jerk. And I had said, like the night before, the last night we spent with our cat, who was recently passed a couple months ago, I was like, we sat down and to try to like cope with all this, we put a movie on and we sat with her and we watched a whole movie. And I said, what movie we watched? We watched Arrival, which is one of my favorite. And I said, you ever think about that there's a reason we picked that movie? The movie that's basically all about a traumatic thing happening to someone and like a beloved person in their life dying. And they decide that, even if you could see all your life all at once, would you still choose to do everything the way you did knowing this would happen? And she says yes, because that love is still there and you're still going to like love that person for the time. And I was like, that's a very clear like thing that we picked, whether it was subconsciously or not, when we were dealing with this like grief. And so I think Jane using these movies as something that they loved and would watch to deal with actual internal problems is like very normal and something that we already did. So to see that put on screen, I think really spoke to me in a lot of ways. And so that's one big theme, I would say. Any thoughts on that, or did I nail it?
I think you summed up.
Okay. It was something I felt very emotional about.
That.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about our specific circumstance,
which
makes me sad, but I think it's good to talk about. So anyway, outside of that theme, another one I think is just about the horror genre in general, and specifically elevated horror, which I think got a nice shot taken at it in this movie from Jane. I want to know what you think about that one as the elevated horror girly.
In like the regard that like Chris kind of Hannah Einbinder's character kind of like intellectualizes everything.
That, the whole part where they're like, all right, Chris, we need you to make it elevated. And you know what that means? Woke. In like a very like derogatory way, which I had thought was Jane kind of calling out the fact that people are probably writing the messages to their movies before actually just writing a movie that speaks to them. And that can be what some more bad elevated horror is.
Yeah, I don't necessarily I didn't take that away from it. We've talked about that off the mic. I don't see that as like what Jane is necessarily saying, because I definitely think that you can have like an intention when you go to write a script. It doesn't mean that that theme is going to work with what your ideas are. And I do think there are movies that try and combine things that just like simply don't work. But then there are other films that like they do.
I guess maybe I didn't interpret it that way. It was more the idea that I think corporations are trying to make money off of identity politics. And so they're saying, hey, we have this gay script. Can you make this movie for us so we can make money? And it's like, instead of allowing filmmakers to write and make what they want to make, there's plenty of movies that have been made just for that reason, to like make money off of other people's trauma.
I mean, I feel like there's a lot that we can say about a lot of different companies just trying to use what they think is a political statement to make money from certain populations or certain people without actually putting their money where their mouth is, and like
it's like corporations
advocating for things that matter. That's exactly what I'm thinking of, is all the corporations that make like ugly ass rainbow shit during Pride Month, and then the rest of the year they're like, yes, I will put money towards this politician that thinks that you don't have a right to exist.
It's like her agent being like, that social justice stuff's going really hot right now. Let's make one of those movies instead of just letting your creator. And that's what's Chris keeps saying, I want Final Cut, I want Final Cut. And they're like, you're not getting Final Cut.
And what's interesting is like, it kind of feels like that's... Chris's movie will naturally have that because of the way Chris's brain works. I don't think Chris needs to be told, hey, make your movie, quote, woke.
Yes. I meant to say this earlier, but I thought there was a really amazing shot where when Chris is introduced initially, it says directed by Jane Schoenbrun.
Oh, yeah, it's very much like...
And it's over Chris to basically be like, this is the stand-in. I think it's very obvious that Chris is Jane, which is really cool as well.
A new up-and-coming filmmaker that's asked to do XYZ things that Jane was definitely asked to do, like, for example, the Leprechaun thing.
And then I think that we can transition into, like, the sex talk now, but I think that also is, like, clearly saying, like, this is something I have struggled with. And so I enjoyed that a lot. So
I think there's also this really interesting piece, too, with the character of Chris, because like I said, she really does kind of intellectualize everything. Like it's like when she talks about her project and the way she sees the world, it's very much like an academic paper. And Gillian Anderson, Billy? Yeah, like very directly is like, I don't care about your paper. These movies are about
two things.
Flesh and fluids. Basically, like, horror and desire aren't something that you're going to solve by reading a paper, babe.
And I think we also see with the intellectualization of everything that Chris has an unhealthy relationship with their movies and is using them to basically ignore things in their life and ignore the intimacy issues, the relationship issues they have. They're like, I just work. I don't worry about anything else, which we know people will do. They're going to like throw themselves fully into their work instead of like going to therapy or thinking internally about thoughts that might scare them. And I think that also goes the same with the way that we interact with our art as well. And we kind of said it before, is sometimes you can go off to the point of interacting to basically not be alone with your own thoughts or to not have to deal with something.
I talk about it all the time since, I work in mental health, and I've talked a lot with people about like different coping skills and safety planning and whatnot, that like distraction is a coping skill, but that can't be our only coping skill, because we can't just permanently avoid the things that make us upset and stressed. So we can't just be using cinema as a distraction 100% of the time.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, you want to get into the sex part of it now? Is there any other themes we need to hit?
The sex part is probably the big thing that we're missing here, and
I don't know how to talk about it. I do.
Started. But go ahead. I think the most significant theme here is learning to enjoy sex after transition specifically for Jane, I think, is the read. And the thought of like, how do you enjoy sex when you're in the wrong body?
Agreed on that. I think there also is just a overall fear of intimacy thrown in there as well, outside of the trans element of it. But
yeah, I think especially thinking about it from the filmmaker who made the film, and that it's like allegorically tied with these other films that are also about transness. I do think that that's very specifically what it's looking at. But yeah, I think in general, it's about like the anxiety that we might have around intimacy.
Definitely. I will say, and I think it's very clear in here, and a line I liked is that Chris says, like, you know, the only way that this really works for me is I pretend like I'm like a victim, basically. And she goes, I know, it's so misogynistic of me. And it's like, I actually felt that part of this movie is like, don't kink shame yourself.
Yeah.
Which is like a very funny theme to basically, and she's like, it's just play. You're allowed to like think that way. Mm-hmm. Don't just let society's expectations on you control how your sex life works. Mm-hmm. Which again, hilarious that we got this not big budget, but movie that got a theatrical release that basically is like, yeah, don't kink shame yourself. It's okay to want to play victim in the bedroom.
Well, we're getting a lot of movies this year that are a lot more open about talking about sex. I mean, Olivia Wilde is in 2.
Yeah,
The Invite, which she directed. And then there's also I Want Your Sex. So it's definitely, and which is also really interesting because I know that the generations below us are
less interested in sex scenes in movies, at least.
They're also just like more uncomfortable with sex as a topic, as a thing, period.
COVID kind of ruined a lot of things.
I do think that's a thing. That's why people talked about like,
their actual connection to other people is worse. So obviously that'll be worse too.
And thinking about like even reality TV from like an academic perspective, it was really interesting to see Love Island US this year because it was like very over sexualized, which is interesting because the main population of people who are watching it are also these people that like are evidently more afraid and anxious around sex. So it's like,
well, this could be a relatable movie for them then.
Honestly, yes. I do think there's this like really interesting concept within her sexual desires, both of them, of like imagining themselves being like the correlation of being stabbed and seeing themselves from the killer's perspective, and then them being stabbed and murdered corresponding with orgasm. And I think there's something like particularly interesting there because of the historical like read of slashers. And
I'm glad you went there because if you didn't, I was going to bring that up. So continue.
As penetration.
Mm-hmm. And in a victimized way. It's like you look at Alien, which is about like forced pregnancy, forced birth, or a lot of slasher films, which is like violence upon women by a male figure against their will. And there's like the penetration element via stabbing. In this situation, they are in control of it, sort of. And they are basically reclaiming what was prior a almost assault allegory.
Yes.
Which, again, that's why she's like, it's so misogynistic. But it's like, no, it's okay. You're allowed to reclaim that, right?
Yes.
Like, so there is like a feminist element as well.
Yeah. I think that's very interesting. I also think
this movie's got layers. It's like an onion. Peeling back.
It's totally like an onion.
I know, it really is.
Yeah, it's interesting specifically to just like think about, I think, the correlation just between sex and violence and sex and death, which is in the movie's title. Like, I mean, I think it's very much telling you like that is an important read here, team.
Yep.
Jane said it's right
especially
here.
when it pertains to these types of films. I mean, I think Scream kind of said some of this, but this is a much more, I think, personal film when it comes to how we interact with slashers versus like what slashers are. Scream is a meta commentary on slashers. Teenage Sex and Death in Camp Miasma is a meta commentary on our interaction with slashers and horror movies and the media we consume. Or art I keep saying media like a fucking pleb. An art we consume.
It's fine.
Yeah. Content. Put a gun in my mouth.
Made you some content.
Exactly. Okay. I am trying to think of what else I want to say about it. Again, this is like a hard one to talk about because I do think it is like so personal and a little uncomfortable. And this movie's kind of telling you to stop being uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
I know what I can get to. Part of it is also about like intimacy with a partner that you trust and who cares about you. And like Hannah basically needed to find someone like that who is willing to communicate and have that. And there's a very funny line. I just need to
acknowledge it's so funny that you said Hannah because that's my name.
Oh,
but it's
yeah, not you. Yes,
name,
the actor,
the
Chris.
Character of Chris.
Yeah, little metatextual here.
I was like, whoa.
Chris says at one point, Billy is like, "Oh, what do you like?" And Chris says, whatever you want.
Dealer's choice.
Like, whatever you. It's just dealer's choice, which is like the inability to communicate about your own sexual desire, which is also a thing that has been put on women, at least in the past, 50 plus years, if not more. Mm-hmm. I know that's more of a modern thing where women are like, women don't enjoy sex. They're just there for men's pleasure is like the, idea that is portrayed to young men through porn and other things. And so for a woman to actually be able to say like, oh no, these are the things I like is like also a liberating idea. That is apparently a lesson that needs to be learned. Communication is key, and it's okay to want things.
Yes. Again,
that's what I keep coming back to. Like the layered amount of ideas in here that can relate in so many different ways is very impressive, which is why it is why I really enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, it is really interesting. I feel like when the movie ended, I was like, I need to think about how all of these things piece together. But I think they actually tie together in a nicer bow than I originally thought.
I knew, but I also was like, I don't know how to talk about this because the way it made me feel was just so, I felt this movie like really just made me feel a lot of things in a good way. And I was like, this is so good. I don't know how to speak about it, So, okay. You got any other thoughts on themes or did we botch it?
I think we botched it terribly and we should just quit while we're
I'm feeling that. Okay. Do you have any hot takes about the movie? I do.
No, I probably don't. I'll start with a cold take that I wrote under hot take. Movies about making movies rock.
Oh, you know that I already love that. Movies about making movies. I loved Babylon. People hated Babylon. Don't care. Movie about making a movie. It works for me. Mm-hmm. So, okay. I have a hot take.
What's your hot take?
This is Jane's best movie.
My hot take is that I Saw the TV Glow is better.
Okay. My next hot take. This is the best movie of 2026 so far.
I don't agree, but I...
That's why it's a hot take. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I can get on...
Sorry. Go ahead.
Bitch, I can get on board with it, though. Okay. As your take.
Hot take. This is the only movie I have given 5 stars on Letterboxd that's come out in 2026. I
changed a review for something I'm planning to, so I haven't given any movies 5 stars this year.
Well, that's my hot take. This is my first.
Last year, I'm pretty sure I gave 1. 2.
No, this is my first. And that's my hot take. This is my favorite movie of 2026. 3. And I think arguably this is better than The Odyssey by far for me.
I think it's far more meaningful and personal than The Odyssey.
Yep.
And like it also relates to things that like you are interested in, aka like horror and surrealism and Jane Schoenbrun.
And sex.
And funny women and like
and hot women.
And snacks and dipping sauces.
I just like this movie because 2 girls kiss.
Okay.
That's what I'm afraid of. I keep telling people like this is my favorite movie and they're gonna go watch like lesbian sex on screen and be like, Matt's disgusting.
Well then you say, well, my favorite movie of a couple years ago was 2 boys that kiss.
They did. So, Challengers.
Like
my favorite movie of 2 years ago.
Like some queer cinema, man.
I think I do. Yeah.
Okay. I think that's okay. I personally I Saw the TV Glow better. I don't think it's necessarily a hot take to like one over the other because I'm seeing both takes. Like I think it's maybe just warm. I felt like I Saw the TV Glow stylistically and visually felt to me more cohesive and moving, but I also think tonally It's just more like what I felt was my speed at the time. I loved the humor of teenage sex and death and Camp Miasma, but I don't know if it's necessarily what I was looking for either.
That's fine. You don't have to defend.
I'm just explaining my take.
Do you want my ranking of
Jane's movies?
Yes. It's in order. Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma, I Saw the TV Glow, and then We're All Going to the World's Fair, but I've only seen that movie once. So
That's your number 3.
It's my number 3, but I like all of them a lot.
Yeah, so it's not in order, but...
in order from top to bottom. Camp Miasma, I Saw the TV Glow, and then We're All Going to the World's Fair.
You went from the last movie to the second movie to the first movie. In order, I thought you'd be
whatever. You know what I mean. What are yours? Of the 2, you already said.
I Saw the TV Glow and then Teenage Sex and Death.
Yeah, you need to watch the other one.
I am halfway through.
Yep, it's a good movie.
So I don't think I can rate it, but if I'm going to rate it, I'm going to put it last.
Okay.
It's just stylistically not doing it for me the way the
other two do. It's much more low budget, but...
Yeah, it's a Sundance premiere movie. Indie as hell.
Okay.
Hoping for distribution.
What else we got going on in this episode?
I have a this or that of movies about making movies.
You got it.
Okay.
I'm not looking at the list. Go ahead.
Teenage Sex and Death.
Just say Camp Miasma. Just say Camp Miasma.
Or Boogie Nights.
This is hard.
Some of them will be easy.
I think Boogie Nights.
Camp Miasma or Tropic Thunder.
Camp Miasma. I love Tropic Thunder though.
Camp Miasma or King Kong 2005. Camp Miasma or Sentimental Value.
Camp Miasma.
I know, I'm gonna kill you later.
Okay.
Camp Miasma or The Blair Witch Project.
Camp Miasma.
Camp Miasma or Inland Empire.
Camp Miasma. More accessible.
Camp Miasma or Mulholland Drive.
Mulholland Drive. Ugh. They're like the same movie.
No. Camp Miasma or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Camp Miasma.
Camp Miasma or The Fabelmans.
That's not a movie about making movies. I refuse.
It's a movie about a director learning to make movies. Camp Miasma or Babylon.
Camp Miasma.
Oh.
I love Babylon, but Camp Miasma. Babylon's a mess. Camp Miasma is not a mess. Okay. Camp Miasma or Boogie Nights?
I fall asleep in the middle of Boogie Nights every time.
Don't admit that. Camp Miasma or Sentimental Value?
Sentimental Value is my bitch.
Camp Miasma or Tropic Thunder?
Camp Miasma.
Camp Miasma or King Kong?
I have a lot of nostalgia for that movie, but Camp Miasma.
Fall Miasma or The Blair Witch Project?
Camp Miasma.
Camp Miasma or Mulholland Drive?
Mulholland Drive.
Camp Miasma or Inland Empire?
I fell asleep during that one.
Dude, you're actually giving away all your credibility right now, so go ahead. Camp Miasma or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
I was going to say Camp Miasma without the middle chunk of Inland Empire. Easily Camp Miasma. I don't like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm like the one guy.
Camp Miasma or The Fabelmans? This one's hard. I'd probably go The Fabelmans. Tie.
Probably
all right,
Fablemans,
let's rate this movie.
Okay.
It's easy for me. This is a 10 out of 10 movie. This is my first 10 out of 10. It's all based on a feeling. Someone at work asked me today. They said, what objectively puts it over? And I said, objectives only can take it to a 4.5. I was like, the last half star is always just a feeling or a vibe that I get. And I got it here. And it's funny because about 10 minutes into this movie, I was like, this might be it. I was like, I will see how this goes, but I have a feeling this could be a 5-star movie. So it is. And easy enough to say this is a +5 on the Dalton endorsement scale. Everyone go see this. It's awesome. You're going to hate me if you don't like it. And that's okay.
I would give it a +5 on the Dalton endorsement scale.
Oh, you're putting that first so that you don't feel as bad when you don't give it a 10 out of 10.
I'm not giving it a 10 out of 10, no. I can't remember what I gave I Saw the TV Glow. Because...
probably a 9 out of 10.
Then I'd give this an 8.8.
Okay.
But if I gave I Saw the TV Glow higher than that, then I'm willing to go up to a 9.1.
All right. Well, clearly we really love this movie. Because I could see myself
as being the first watch of I Saw the TV Glow being a 9, a 9.2. Oh,
I was shook by that movie.
I don't know, but now on rewatch, I'm like, that's a 9.9, baby.
Yeah. No, 10 for me. I loved it. Favorite movie of the year so far, and I think it'll be hard for it to get beat by anything, but we will see.
We'll see.
I'm excited to keep bringing it up in future episodes.
We'll see.
Okay, anything else?
That's all.
This is great, guys. Go see this. Go pay for it. It's limited. I think it's great. It looks great. It's meant to
when
be seen on a big screen.
When this episode comes out, it'll still be in limited release, but it extends wider like a day or two later.
Yeah. And we did our best to talk about this one. It was a hard one, so hope you enjoyed.
I think all things considered, we did a good job.
There's probably so much other stuff to talk about in terms of themes, and it's like there are so many that are like going at each other at full speed that it's like really easy to get pulled in so many different directions, which I think is something that makes it amazing.
It's 10:30 p.m. I don't have the time or energy to go through that.
Yep.
But in my heart, I will.
Go see it. This has been Horror at the Hannahs. I'm Matt Hannah.
I'm Hannah.
Stay tuned and stay scared.
Thank you for listening to Horror Hour with the Hannahs. Make sure to listen to future episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever else you can find podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube, where we post episodes and shorts. You can follow us at Horror Hour with the Hannahs on TikTok and Instagram, as well as at Horror Hour on Blue Sky for more content. If you like the podcast, please follow and leave a review on your favorite podcasting app. Happy hauntings!